The printer won't print. You shut the computer down, then start it again. Still broken. You hit restart and it works. Only one of those two buttons actually turns your computer off. Shutdown doesn't rebuild your computer. It writes the running system to your disk and loads it straight back, which means the Windows kernel on your machine might not have been rebuilt since spring. Turning a computer on is nothing like turning on a light. At the moment you press the button, there's no operating system. There's a bootloader, and it has to pull the kernel in off the disk in pieces and link those pieces together into something that can run. Then that kernel goes looking for every piece of hardware bolted to your machine and loads a driver for each one it finds. Only after all of that is there something for you to log into. That rebuild is most of what a black screen is, and it is exactly the bill Microsoft decided you shouldn't have to pay twice. So in Windows 8, it cut the machine in half. When you shut down, the top half really does die. Every application closes. Every user session logs off. At that instant, nothing of yours is running, but the kernel is still loaded and the system session is still going. And instead of tearing that down, Windows saves it. It tells every driver to get ready for hibernation, then writes the kernel memory image, the kernel, and every kernel driver loaded inside it into a single file on your disk. Then it cuts the power. Microsoft measured the machine coming back 30 to 70% faster. Now press the power button. The bootloader does not do any of that work again. It finds the file, reads it back into memory, and the machine is simply there. Where a cold start builds a kernel, this one recognizes one. And the drivers that come up are not new drivers. Microsoft's own wording is that on resuming, drivers and services are notified, but they are not restarted. They are restored to the state they were in beforehand. The same driver, holding the same state, carrying on the same sentence it was halfway through when you walked away, which is a very good trade right up until something in there is broken. A driver with a slow memory leak used to get wiped out every time you shut the machine down for the night. Now it doesn't. It gets saved to disk along with everything it was holding and handed straight back in the morning. Microsoft says this out loud in its own documentation to the people who write drivers. Be careful of memory leaks, it says, because the uptime between kernel reboots may be significantly longer than on previous versions. The kernel, drivers, and services are preserved and restored, not restarted, on user-initiated sleeps and shutdowns. So how long has it actually been? Your computer will tell you. Open Task Manager, look at uptime, and shut the machine down tonight. Tomorrow, that number carries on from where it was. Restart, and it goes back to 0, because it was never counting your computer. It was counting the kernel. And underneath, the system is blunter than that. When a driver wakes up, it is handed a record of what just happened, and that record has two fields. One says what you asked for. The other says what the machine actually did. After you press shutdown, the first field reads shutdown, and the second field reads hibernate, written down by the operating system about itself. Which brings us back to the printer and the two buttons, because none of this is a bug and none of it is hidden. It is written in the specification for the feature. Fast startup, it says, is the default transition when a system shutdown is requested. A full shutdown occurs when a system restart is requested. Read that twice. The button labeled shutdown is the one that doesn't. The button labeled restart is the only ordinary thing on your machine that still destroys the running kernel and builds a new one. And the oldest advice in computing, have you tried restarting it, turns out to be not a superstition, but a precise instruction. Not off and on again, restart. They stopped being the same thing 14 years ago. So restart really does turn it off. Except that off has one more layer under it. When a computer is properly shut down, the specification for that state does not say the power is gone. It says no context is saved, but power may still be applied to parts of the platform, and therefore, in its own words, it is not safe to disassemble. Something in there is still awake. It has to be. Your power button is a request, and something has to be listening for it. So there are really 3 offs. The one in your menu, which is a hibernation wearing a costume, the real one, which still has a live rail in it. And the last one, the plug pulled out of the wall, which is the only state the specification calls completely off. And even there, one circuit keeps going, the clock, running on its own little battery counting. The printer then. You shut the computer down and everything above your login screen genuinely died. Every window, every document, your whole session gone. But the thing that was actually broken was never up there. It was the driver in the half of the machine that got saved to disk and handed back to you intact, still holding the same wrong idea it had the night before. You didn't turn your computer off. You logged out of it very thoroughly, and then it wrote itself down. Restart was the only button that took the machine apart. Off was never a state of your computer. It was a word about your session. And underneath it, in the half you never see, the same kernel has been running since the last time you pressed the other one. Everything you just figured out rests on something deeper, and that's the next video, so start there. Would you rather understand your computer than just use it? Then subscribe, and I'll see you next time, further down the stack.